Okay, let's get started then. All right, we have participants. This is excellent. And let's just get the app up so we can get started. So we're going to run through invoicing and quoting. This is the stack in ScheduleFlow: scheduling, mobile apps, timesheets, invoicing, and automation functionality. So we're going to focus on invoicing here, and let's get started. Can someone mute? I'm getting some background sound there. Excellent, excellent. Okay, let's jump in and let's create some invoices. So there's a few ways to do our invoicing. Sorry, Glenn, I just totally lost my page with my invoicing instructions on it. Let me just open this up. Here we go. These are the steps of things we're going to run through on how to invoice. So we're going to create an invoice. We're going to capture items on the invoice. We're going to just check our inventory is right. We're going to create an invoice via a job and directly. We're going to create an invoice via the mobile app. We're just going to check invoice statuses. We're going to go sending an invoice and notes, and then we're going to do reporting on invoices, and then we're going to do the templates functionality. So let's get stuck into it. So creating an invoice is pretty straightforward. You can do it from coming into a job, entering in, so this is the basic job view in here. This is your customer information. This is your job information. Now the hours and products tab is where you enter the inventory items into a job. They're split into service items in here. So this is typically hours and service-based work, and then products, and this is products used. So I hit the add button, I can add a new product in here. I can enter the location of that product. So is it coming from a warehouse or one of my technicians in the field? So this is good for keeping track of stock which is used in a van. I can enter my quantity. That's my purchase price, and that helps me work out the profitability of different work I've got here. That's my sales price, and this is whether I've actually used this on the job or not. So let's go, and we've entered some items there. So now we can actually create any of the service statement documents. So we can do an invoice, a quote, a service report, or a purchase order. So this is obviously oriented for the scheduler. So let's just go in here and jump in, create an invoice, just creating it for this job. So now one of the things which people often forget to do when creating invoices and haven't yet built into their workflow is just the invoice status. So it's really handy to use the invoice status because that allows you to bundle your invoices into their right groups. So if I have an approval process, I'm going to put the invoice into awaiting approval for a senior person to approve this invoice before it gets sent out. And if I've sent it, I'm going to put it to awaiting payment because I've actually sent it out to the customer. So if I just put it into awaiting approval, it's not going to be sent yet. I'm just going to review it. I can do internal notes. So, you know, follow up with this customer 1 week before invoice is due. That might be a note I want on the invoice, which appears to the customer, you know, please find your invoice. Any questions, please contact us straight away. This is reasonably straightforward. So if that's paid, due date, you can set the default due date in settings, and then that's the actual due date. These are my items. Now this is interesting. So I can go find another job. So I can go find another job in my system which has got some revenue on it, and I can add that to my invoice. So I've got multiple jobs now sitting on the one invoice, so I can build out my invoice with multiple jobs. But just say I want to add an item just to this invoice, I can add an item to this invoice without adding a job. So I can just go in, say it's such and such product description. So I can, it's a widget. I'm going to go add a widget. I'm going to set my sales price. Customer never sees purchase price. I'm going to set my sales price. There. So now I've built out my my invoice. there's a history there of actions done on the invoice and payments made on the invoice. I can do a payment on the invoice as well. So let's follow the full workflow through though. Let's go and create this invoice. So this invoice is created. Let's see what it would look like. So theoretically from a workflow, say I'm not the approver. So I've just created that invoice, but say I am the approver and I want to go see what invoices I have to approve. So I click on statements up the top. I come through, I've got my bundles of invoices here. And this is my group of invoices which are awaiting approval, and I can see there's something in here I need to action. So I'm going to go in and edit this invoice. I'm going to have a look at the amounts and make sure all the items I need are on it. If I need to add an extra item, I can just add an extra item in here. So I might go add a miscellaneous. I've got about widget number 2. So I'm going to go add widget number 2, price is the same. All right, I'm all happy with that invoice now. So now I'm just going to email it off to the customer. So this is my note to the customer. This is my invoice run. It's ready. Then these are my notes through to the customer, and then I'm going to send that invoice off. That invoice will get attached as a PDF to this email and will go off to the customer. So now I've sent that email. So that email's being sent. It's been flagged as sent. So that email's on its way. I'm going to change its status to now awaiting payment because it's gone off to the customer. So that's done. We can see that my invoice is now moved into this bundle and it's sitting there awaiting payment by the customer. So a week's passed and I might want to follow up with that user, or I'm just going to come in now and check that that's been paid. So I could come in here and I could say, actually, it's been paid in full. I could enter a payment event in here and I can say, look, there was a payment made on this. So the payment amount was the full payment amount. So it's 1837 has been paid. Payment method was credit card, and I could just add that payment transaction in there. So owing amount now is 0. So that's a fully paid up invoice and we're happy campers. I can now actually generate a payment tax invoice now to say that invoice has been fully paid. So I can come through there and say amount owing is 0. So that's a full invoice workflow there. Now let's just jump into here and see what we're going to talk about now. Right, so say I wanted to do an invoice from a mobile app. So I've got a technician in the field and they are going to create the invoice. So I'm logged in here as Paul Webinar. So I'm going to pretend I'm the technician. I'm just going to put this job into a status of scheduled. And now I'm going to jump into the mobile app. So let's just go through and jump through to the mobile app. Today, I've got a job today. It's scheduled. I'm going to jump in. I can see that some hours and products have been built because this job's a fixed price job and it's ready to go. I could add some additional hours if I needed to for that. So I could come in here and I could go add some additional hours. So I could come in here. It's automatically defaulted open for the search because we hid that for a while. But anyway, this is a much faster workflow. So I could come in here and type MISC. I can do my search. So this can be on a tablet or whatever. I can find my stuff straight away. So that will be faster to choose your inventory item. I can go through and enter my quantity in here. It's been used. We can hide this information if you don't want the technician to have to worry about the pricing information. And now I can just add that item to my job. So now I want to build an invoice. I'm going to go up and I'm going to add an invoice for this technician. This technician's in the field and they're going to go and create their own invoice. So they've come through here and they're going to go and create an invoice. They're going to set the status of the invoice to awaiting payment because they're actually going to come through and they're going to send that invoice. So I'm just going to email this invoice off to the customer. These are my notes. Hi Bruce. Let's get this invoice out to you. So that invoice is now going to be sent off to that customer. So that's done. That invoice is off. It's out. That's the amount owing. Now I could also take a payment in the field as well. So if I wanted to take a payment, I can come into payment details in here. I'm just going to hide that for a sec. I'm going to go into payment details and I can add a new payment in here. So the amount owing is $9.90. I can come in and say, yep, $9.90 is the amount owing. The payment date's today. The payment method was cash and add payment. So now I've tracked my payment option amount, the amounts owing. I could actually send that now to the customer to say, look, hi, thanks, is paid in full now. So that's an attachment of that PDF with amount owing being 0. So that's a fully paid off invoice. That's done. As a technician, then I would probably go through and just change my my job to a status of completed, or we could actually have a new status in there called invoiced if you wanted. Its statuses are completely flexible. So jumping back to the scheduler view of the world, I can come in and I can look at my statements here, and I can see that my invoice now has been moved through to, actually, maybe I forgot to change the status. My invoice has been moved through to paid in full. So do it. So now I'll have 2 paid. Oh, I had 2 in there. So yep. So the one I did from the driver app was already there. I just added another one. So now they're both in there, paid in full. So I can see the totals of invoices I've had paid in full. I can do some searching on these paid in full invoices. So I can search by invoice number, the invoice date, yeah, so I can keep track of invoices I want to follow up on.